This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world from the enemies of the people. John Bailey right here with Peter Katz, the anchor for all seasons, and Jim Benerofe is back, ladies and gentlemen, with the headlines.
And here are the headlines for the week of August the 3rd, 2018. Lennar introduces new design for a taller, slimmer, retail-trimmed complex at former White Plains Pavilion. City contemplates life without Walmart on Main Street. Good Counsel approval or denial hearing appears to be postponed to next month. Red light cameras start for real. The former venue shelves plan for mixed-use mall opposite Bloomingdale's, offers 132-unit independent senior living project. Westchester Power, Sustainable Westchester, promises new green supply rate less than Con Edison's average rate the last 12 months. New rate will be offered in November. County Executive Latimer announces 6-year contract with 43-member nurses union. No retroactive pay, then raises of 2.5%, 2.5%, 3%, and 2.5%. 10.5% over 3 years. County calls conference on establishing more incubator facilities in corporate locations in the county. Entrepreneurs grumble about lack of coordination of services to startups. A new traffic improvement is offered by the governor at LaGuardia Airport. In our Trump trailer, Peter Katz wraps up the Trump highlights of the week.
Thank you, Jim. And we go right away to the White Plains Week video newsreel. March of Time for August the 3rd, and that's a picture of a new development that Lennar presented, and for the hole in the ground, which we'll see next. Next slide, please. There it is. That's the way it looked just about last week or so. Peter Katz, you were there.
You know, John, the new hole in the ground. You remember there used to be a hole in the ground by the train station?
Yes,
well, that one was filled in.
Yes.
But the one where the Pavilion Mall once stood will be with us for maybe another year or so, it seems. The developer of the site appeared at the Common Council work session at City Hall on Monday and reported that they've been unable to get financing for the currently approved plan, so they've come up with a revised plan which they believe they will be able to finance and start building about a year from now. The major changes: doing the project in 2 phases, removing some of the retail, putting in more apartments, 814 in all, and changing the configuration to give the whole project a more open feeling.
The now empty site of the former Pavilion Mall, and before that Alexander's department store, got a fresh look by the White Plains Common Council at a work session on July 30th when developer LMC, a Lennar company, presented revised plans for the site.
We've gone through and really completely redesign this project from top to bottom. There are a lot of similarities to what was previously approved, but I think that we've dramatically improved the project. We have divided it into 2 phases. We previously had one phase, which was 707 units with a little over 85,000 square feet of retail. As you're aware, the retail market is not as robust as it once was because of Amazon and other reasons. Along with that amount of retail also came a substantial amount of parking. We basically cut the project in half, and you'll see the phasing lines and how that works. But we've actually upped the number of residential units and lowered the amount of retail space. So basically the square footage that we took out of the retail went into the residential. The other things that we've done, we've actually kind of narrowed the profile of the buildings so that they have a smaller footprint. They take up really less space visually from really anywhere that you drive around the site. It's less of a bulky feel. It's more of a taller, skinnier feel, I would say. Some other things that we've done, we have put in a park, kind of a triangular shaped park, really, that's at the terminus of East Post Road. So it's a nice public plaza that I think is going to be a real amenity for the community, a big benefit. We now have about 25,000 square feet of retail, so we do still have some. We're anticipating that will be a restaurant space, some of which would front onto that park, onto that plaza, some of which would front onto South Broadway. We've also put kind of a motor court in the middle that we think is going to be very nice, not only for the drop-off for the residents, but also a nice drop-off for the retail and restaurants, but also a direct path back to parking, so that you have very easy parking access to that ground level retail.
A variance, the plan as submitted is about 22 feet above the allotted height for that area, but they did get a variance to allow the extra height. And one of the things that kept coming up when the council made comments was the council's desire to see them put solar panels in the project and at least make some sort of effort to start generating their own electricity to serve the project. The other thing which was brought up by the council on this was that the park that he talked about, the 17,000 square foot park, the council wanted to be sure that that park would be child friendly.
Let's hope so. Jim, what do you think of this new
I think the rendering looks nicer than the old rendering. I'll put that way. It's interesting. I am in the midst of reading a book entitled The Revenge of Analog. And it talks about brick and mortar retailing as not dying at all. It is going to come back, and that the digital economy is not all it is cracked up to be. And the book is pretty convincing and well worth reading.
Well, you're going to have trouble convincing Walmart of that. As you know, while you were out of town, Walmart decided that they're going to leave town. August 10th is the date they're going to close the store.
I was in the Walmart in Florida that's near us. It's a brand new one. And it's very different than this. First of all, they want to have a grocery department, and that's not a good grocery location. Their market is not, I don't think, the demographics in White Plains. So I don't think that's...
One of the questions being asked out loud is what happens to Burlington Coat Factory, which is upstairs from Walmart at that location. What happens to the Dunkin' Donuts, which is a little location as you walk in. It's just to the right of the main entrance to Walmart. Another thing which happened just yesterday regarding retail, Brookstone announced that they are going bankrupt. Now, Brookstone
is in the city center.
Well,
right?
they're in the Westchester Mall.
Ah,
yeah.
Westchester.
They're also in Danbury. They've got a ton of stores nationwide. The company actually started out as a mail order company, so it's interesting that
ice cream by mail.
That's going full circle.
Yeah.
Well, Brookstone, the guy who started had an idea that people might want to get unusual gadgets, and so he took out an ad in Science Popular Science, I think it was, a classified ad. That's how he started his business, selling things through the mail. And that led to the retail presence that they've had, where you could go into the store in the Westchester and browse through all of these unique gadgets.
Yeah, that will work
Well,
nicely.
I've been to a number of Brookstone stores, and I think that their product line was very limiting. I don't think that it was too specialized.
Specialization is always a problem. You can be too specialized or not specialized enough. But what is really about the Common Council coming up on Monday night is they have decided to postpone the hearing or adjourn it to the next month for the Good Counsel property shown here. That's the plan. And we wonder what's really happening with the economic, not economic, but the environmental review as to whether or not this is given any credence. So anyway, no secret meeting on it Monday night.
When you look at it in its totality, the Good Counsel project has not been on the table for that long, certainly compared with some other projects in the city. Having an adjournment, I don't think is a big deal. I don't think it speaks to the status of the project necessarily.
It's better that they do it in September when everybody is back.
Well,
instead of all May.
There's a lot to be said about that.
Yes, I already wrote a lot about it. And now the former venue has shelved a plan for mixed-use mall opposite Bloomingdale's. Here's a picture of the site that they want to now develop into independent senior living, and that's
this is where the 120 Bloomingdale Road building is, and that's where the State Department of Labor is, and they were going to put essentially a glorified strip mall in there opposite Bloomingdale's.
Another one of those living and buying.
There too, this may go back to what Jim started to bring up, which is, what is the status of retail? It could be that maybe they determined that this site just couldn't support more retail, and that's why they're revising.
Yeah, well, I think that to me was sort of a retail fly, if you will. There made no sense to me to put any retail there. It just wasn't the kind of location. I don't know what possessed them to think about it in the first place.
Well, time goes on and things change. In fact, things are going to change for people who have the green power rate. The Westchester Power, Sustainable Westchester, promises a new green supply rate less than Con Edison's average rate the last 12 months. And that rate will be offered in November.
Well, that'll be very attractive, actually, if you can do something to promote the use of renewable energy, renewable sources for energy, and do it cheaper than you're paying Con Edison. That would be most interesting.
Well, this has been their experience, and I have a big story on the site as to how their experience has been.
And the site, of course, is WPCNR.com, right?
Yes, I knew that.
I get paid for that commercial.
Thank you very much. Meanwhile, there was a settlement announced yesterday by County Executive Latimer, a 6-year contract with the nurses union, 43 members of it. In the last 2 years, no retroactive pay, but they failed to mention in the news release that they do get the automatic increases on the previous contract. That's the way it failed to work.
So how much more are the nurses going to be able to put in their pockets? What's the bottom line on it?
10.5% total in the next 3 years. 2.5%, 2.5%, 3%, and 2.5%, and that includes 2018. This is way beyond inflation, way beyond it.
Okay, well, hearing that, John, I think it's time for John and I and Jim to sit down and renegotiate our contract.
Yes, absolutely, right. Now, coming on up is a LaGuardia Airport.
Well, you know, if you're one of those people who just cannot stand to go to LaGuardia Airport because of all the construction that's going on, take heart. Things just got a little bit better on Tuesday when Governor Cuomo led a delegation opening up a new
flyover roadway, they call it, flyover, an elevated ramp to take drivers above much of the airport congestion when they're going from the Grand Central Parkway to the Delta Airlines terminal on the airport. And Patricia Arnst of Delta Airlines was among the speakers.
At Delta, New York is one of our most important hubs, and the transformation of LaGuardia is a testament to our commitment to New York. This flyover will ensure seamless access from the eastbound Grand Central Parkway to Delta's Terminals C and D, saving passengers time and easing the congestion across the entire airport. It's incredible to see how rapidly the new airport is already taking shape. Delta Airlines broke ground on our terminal less than a year ago, and today we are already celebrating construction milestones and on track to complete a brand new arrivals and departures hall by 2021.
This airport is not just going to be new and easier to navigate. It's going to have an air train finally, so you can get to Manhattan. It's going to have a high-speed ferry. It's going to have more parking than ever before. So it is going to be a totally new and better airport. And when you put it together with everything else we're doing, we are going to take, in some ways, advantage of the void in this country, and we're going to show them how to build and how to lead once again. Because that is New York's role. We are the most progressive, we are the leaders, we do it first, and we let the other states emulate what happens in New York. That is the New York way. We had a $100 billion plan over 5 years. Next year, I want to increase it to the largest development program in the United States of America, $150 billion, to build on what we're doing and to make New York better than it has ever been.
You think Cuomo's running for something?
Well,
Sounds like it.
I've never seen a traffic improvement in Queens that improves things. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, I
What?
remember when it was pretty
What?
bad. Hey, look,
Yeah.
John, I remember when they were building the Throgs Neck Bridge. That certainly improved things,
Didn't it, though?
didn't it?
Yes.
I remember when they redid the Belt Parkway and the ramp to get you onto the Grand Central.
But we'll see. Maybe this might work.
Katz, you are really old.
Oh, stop
Yes.
it!
Now, speaking
No, that
of
was
leading,
that was in 1985, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of leading,
Yeah.
the Trump trailer.
Oh, brother. President Trump is again proclaiming that the free press in this country is the enemy of the people. He did it again last night in Pennsylvania. He's trying to convince his base not to believe what they read in the papers and hear on the radio and see all the legitimate network news programs and believe only his propaganda and the propaganda presented by Fox News. The idea to get the base ready for the reports that he did conspire with Russia to steal the election, that his administration is the most corrupt in history, that he has evaded taxes, that he is the pawn of Russia's Putin, and that he and his family have been lining their pockets at the expense of all of us. Now, in an interview with C-SPAN, Trump's daughter Ivanka, who also serves as a White House advisor, expressed strong disagreement with her father's immigration policy of taking away children from their parents and holding them captive, and her father's claim that the press is the enemy of the people. Now, that came up yesterday at the White House briefing when Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders refused to agree with Ivanka. CNN's Jim Acosta was extremely blunt in pressing Sanders to take a stand about freedom of the press and the role it is playing to try to keep our democracy alive.
The media continues to ratchet up the verbal assault against the president and everyone in this administration, and certainly we have a role to play, but the media has a role to play for the discourse in this country as well.
And sir, if you don't mind, if I may follow up, excuse me, you did not say in the course of those remarks that you just made that the press is not the enemy of the people. Are we to take it from what you just said? We all get put through the ringer, we all get put in the meat grinder in this town, and you're no exception. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. I wish that had not happened. But for the sake of this room, the people who are in this room, this democracy, this country, All the people around the world are watching what you're saying, Sarah, and the White House for the United States of America, the President of the United States should not refer to us as the enemy of the people. His own daughter acknowledges that, and all I'm asking you to do, Sarah, is to acknowledge that right now and right here.
I appreciate your passion. I share it. I've addressed this question. I've addressed my personal feelings. I'm here to speak on behalf of the President. He's made his comments clear.
So, the enemy of the people now continues to tell you that the country's Director of National Security, Dan Coats, says he still has no idea what Trump and Putin agreed to when they met in secret in Helsinki. Now, it must be cataclysmic if Trump is keeping it secret from America's Director of National Security,
Yes.
National Intelligence,
Does that make
Dan
sense?
Coats. The first trial of Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort got underway in Virginia this week. The prosecution introduced evidence showing that Manafort was living a lavish lifestyle while reporting income which could not support a lavish lifestyle. The prosecution revealed Manafort had some 40 foreign bank accounts that he failed to report on his tax returns. The prosecution put his bookkeeper on the stand, who said he kept those bank accounts secret from her, and she paid all the bills, which he approved. The prosecution produced evidence that Manafort bought $25,000 suits, had an expensive coat made out of python skin, and also one made out of ostrich skin, among other things, which put him in the lap of luxury. Trump tweeted this week that Attorney General Jeff Sessions should shut down the Mueller investigation. The White House says it was not an order, just his opinion. But see what happens when the Mueller investigation brings its expected case against Trump for obstruction of justice. It's been reported that the Mueller investigation has been examining Trump's tweets. The Trump administration is rolling back fuel efficiency regulations, meaning gas guzzlers may come back, meaning cars will become less efficient and burn more gas and take you the same number of miles, meaning you'll be paying more for gasoline to keep your cars running. And you'll add more pollution to the atmosphere and make global warming worse. The cost of cars is likely to go up to $5,000 apiece as a result of the Trump tariffs on car parts and imported vehicles. Even cars made in the U.S. use imported parts. The cost of everything is starting to go up as a result of Trump's trade war with China. Imported electronics, imported paper, imported aluminum, imported steel are already seeing prices go up as a result of Trump's trade policies, and so are the prices of TV sets and canned soda and beer and printing and more. Just when you think you've heard everything about the corruption in the Trump administration, there is this new report. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke and his wife wanted to build their own brewery in their hometown in Montana, but local officials refused to change the zoning code for them. So the giant government contractor Halliburton moved in and got the okay to build a brewery in Zinke's hometown, and at the same time, it's been doing business with Zinke's Interior Department. And a report quotes an official of the brewery as saying they plan to give it to Zinke.
Wow. See how that works, folks? Now, what did we think of the speech that Trump made last Friday morning? I heard it while driving down to Virginia on the economy. I thought there were a lot of sound bites that are going to be transformed into commercials that are going to be really powerful.
He touted the good numbers on the economy, and indeed the numbers did show a 4% growth. But what he leaves out is that 4% growth was achieved for 4 years under Obama.
Well, you're entitled to the facts you pick, right?
You know,
that is the problem.
The problem is that you have people in this country who have closed their eyes and closed their ears to news sources. Polls indicate that the Trump base believes Trump. They trust Trump. They believe what he says. They do not believe what the New York Times says, what the Washington Post says, what CBS, NBC, even what White Plains Week says.
And even the dossier says.
So
the dossier keeps getting proved correct.
When you have people who close their ears to the truth and believe what is not the truth,
What
then
do
you
you
have
get?
a real problem.
Yeah.
You have a fundamental problem.
Yeah.
Now, the latest survey of Trump's number of lies is now over 4,200 lies since he has been in office. Documented lies. He's averaging 14 lies per day, give or take. And
Wow.
these are things that come out of the president. These are official things that the president of the United States lies about.
He will be the first president of the United States to write a book, The Benefits of Lying.
Lying
No,
for a living.
Actually, how about the art of lying, and Tony Schwartz could write it for him.
Well, it's not really funny. That's
No,
the
it's
whole
not.
problem.
It's not funny, and I'll tell you something else that's not funny. If you look at the rallies, the two rallies that he
Serious
held,
stuff.
look at the video of that. You will see that he is emulating the speaking gestures of one Adolf Hitler.
Well,
You compare the
That's true.
visual, the way he delivers, the way he gives a look, the way he steps back from the podium, the way he walks back and forth, and then delivers the next line. You will see that that is right out of Hitler. You'll see that.
You know, you should do a split screen.
You know, that
of the
would be
two.
interesting.
That would be an interesting. That would be really interesting. But
Okay.
it's a speaking style. Now, there was a meeting yesterday over at Westchester County Community College. If we can have that footage of the room over there. And it was a meeting.
Now, this is a job incubator,
Yes.
a business incubator, actually, to help businesses
Yes.
get a start in Westchester County.
And to underline the need for more incubators in Westchester. Apparently, there's only one that people could come up with.
Yeah, so they put this together, and John, you figured there were about 40 people who appeared there, and really nothing substantive came out of it, at least that I was able to
Well,
find out. I mean, they talked about the need for the county to put up some money to help small businesses get started and grow.
This was the main theme of most of the entrepreneurs and the speakers, that there had to be more coordination and ways to access information from the county. They said it was really haphazard, and they wanted more information and, of course, more money. And and Bridget Gibbons, the Deputy Director of Economic Development for the county, told me that they were going to form a task force to bring the entrepreneurs together, who are very competitive, to figure out how to do this, to get more entrepreneur-friendly info and organization.
How do you start a business in Westchester, Jim?
How do you start a business in Westchester? You
Carefully,
need a lot of money.
Need a lot of money. Now, the question is, who picks who? They had several speakers there who talked about their experience, and it was all basically, we do fine when we have the money. Don't we all? John Bailey, Peter Katz, Jim Benerofe, good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.